Are you ready to start?
I'm ready.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Today, I have the great pleasure of interviewing Bree Noble. I'm very excited to introduce you to her. Before we get started with that, I want to thank our sponsor. Thank you to Quinn the Eskimo Brass and Winds. They're a fantastic resource for you if you're interested in purchasing or in selling your woodwind or brass instruments. We've known them for years, and they're absolutely the best in the business. Bree, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
You're welcome. I'm excited to get into some stuff today.
Excellent. Well, some of the folks I know you have some people that'll be watching who know you, but a lot of the folks from Grant Park Academy of the Arts do not know you, and all they know is that the little I've told them. So would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Bree. I am a musician just like many of you. And, I've been doing music since as long as I can remember. I discovered that I had this huge passion for music when I was in high school, went on to college and performed with the college's performing ensemble that toured a lot, recorded some albums, and just really like caught the bug for doing music. But as I know has been the experience for a lot of people, especially people my age, I think this is getting better. But I did not have any clue what to do after I left school. I was like very well educated as a musician. I had been trained up as a singer. I knew my music theory, all that stuff. And then I went out into the world and I was like, okay, so now how do I apply this? And they just like leave you on the side of the road and they're like, okay, go ahead. We've made you a great musician, but I had no clue how to get into anything in the business, how to, if I wanted to pursue music myself, how would I market myself? How would I run a business? Like they didn't teach me any of that in school. So luckily I had gotten the practical bug along the way and double majored in business and emphasis on accounting. So I went ahead and did the practical thing and went to work in accounting and ended up working in actually an opera company. I worked as a director of finance for several years there. And so it was a great experience because I got to experience opera, sit in the front row, go to all the fancy parties, all that stuff. But I was around all these artists that were doing what they wanted to do and they were pursuing their artistic career and I could not figure out how to do mine. And so I was like handing them paychecks when what I wanted to do was be doing what they were doing, just not in the opera world, but in like the singer-songwriter world. So fast forward a little bit, I was able to ended up quitting there after I had my first daughter and just found it really difficult to do a full-time job and have a baby. And so I ended up quitting and having the ability to really focus and pursue my music career at that point. This is after like 10 years of trying to do this on the side and just having frustration after frustration and failed band attempts along the way and all that. But because I had that time to really like get into it and figure out like how I would do it, I realized that what I really needed to do was build it like any other business, build it from the ground up and put on my business hat as well as my creative musician hat in order to do it. So that was when I started just building my fan base from the ground up, building it like a business, and starting local and moving out. I ended up touring all over California multiple times, and just building my career that way with little kids in tow, bringing them along the route. So that was kind of my start as a musician until I moved into what I do now. But I don't know if you have any questions before we get there.
Well, you go ahead and talk about what you do now.
Sure. So I'm in the process. When I was doing that, meeting a ton of great musicians, I was like, how come there's all these great musicians out there, especially females, but I have never heard of them? Why haven't I seen them online? Why haven't I heard their music on, any kind of platform or anything? So I developed a platform called Women of Substance, which was at that time an online radio station where I could promote those female artists and music that I thought was really authentic and amazing by them. And, I put my own music on there sometimes too, but it was more about promoting other artists. And as my kids got older, I didn't want to tour as much. So I started to transition more into building that platform. And I built that to a commercial online radio station where we sold commercials. And then eventually transitioned that into a podcast, which now we are just about to create like episode 1100 or something. So
Wow.
it's crazy. That podcast was started in late 2014.
Mhm.
So we transitioned out of online radio because I felt like the growth was really in podcasting. And along the way, I met so many other amazing female artists that I was promoting on the Women of Substance platform who were just like I was in the beginning, completely clueless about what to do, how to promote themselves. They felt like they needed to have some decision maker give them permission to do what they loved and make money at it. And I'm like, nope, you don't need anyone to give you permission. I grant you permission right here. I'm going to help you figure this out. So that was when I started the Female Musician Academy in 2015. And ever since then, I've just been, I focus a lot on female artists just because that's what I built my platform on originally. And I love helping female artists. I love the Academy because it is female only. So it's kind of this safe place where we can be vulnerable with each other and talk about things that truthfully, there are things that only females face in the music world. So um, that's what I've been doing. We're just about to hit our 5-year anniversary in the Academy, which is crazy to me. And then, along the way, I've done other things, creating the Profitable Musician Summit. So helping more than just females learn how to make money from music. And then my newest course, which is Rock Your Next Release, which is all about helping people with the whole journey to releasing an album or EP.
That's amazing. That's a really amazing story. I appreciate you going through the whole thing from beginning to end like that. I know you'd like some more questions, and I have them for you.
Awesome.
Uh, um, so you had a journey. You started off as I want to be a musician. Then you moved into I am a musician, and then you moved into I want to help other people become musicians. Uh, could you tell me? I'd like to be a little bit of a psychiatrist here. Go back to your childhood. How did that influence you, plus positive or negative, in this ultimate goal you had of helping other people? Do you feel like your childhood, or maybe not your childhood, but your youth, your pre-college years, was that a time where you felt like you were already moving in that direction, or were you moving in the opposite direction?
So I have a lot of teachers in my family. I married a professor. So there's a lot of teaching in my family. In fact, my aunt, who's my mom's sister, we ended up moving to the town where she lived, and she ended up actually being one of my teachers in 8th grade, which was a little strange. But, having so many teachers in my family, I was always like, nope, I'm not going to teach. Like, when I first was a kid, I was like, I'm going to be a teacher because that's what everyone in my family was. And then later I'm like, nope, I don't want to do that. I want to be a singer. And so, but I think and also I married an English professor. So getting to see him work and all that. But I never wanted to be a teacher in the traditional sense. What I really love is the group coaching aspect of what I get to do, because I think, it's not just me that has the knowledge, and I don't ever want to come in and be like, I am the guru and everyone should listen to me. I am a facilitator, and sometimes I have more knowledge and experience just because I've been doing it longer, but there are other people that are doing, things a little bit differently, and they can shed some light on, this aspect of it. And so I love more thinking of myself as a facilitator than a teacher.
Okay.
But on the artistic side, I do want to mention, like, I don't have musicians in my family at all, but my mom was a painter, but she didn't do that. She was a housewife, and then when she became single, she had to go into the work world, and she did things like sell flooring and stuff. It wasn't her passion, but she did it because she needed to make money. But when I was like a junior or senior in high school, she decided to pursue her painting as a business. And she did it on the side at first, but she got a little bit of seed money, and she ended up just going out and starting her own business, being like a decorative painter and painting murals and things like that. And so it really showed me kind of the entrepreneurial side that you can do that. And she didn't have any business experience either. So
Did you know at the time that this was going to be important for you to see, or is it something that in retrospect you say, wow, when I saw her do that, I didn't know at the time, but now?
I really don't even think I thought about it. It came up in an interview a couple years ago, and people were asking me about, if I'd had entrepreneurs in my family, and I'm like, not really. And I'm like, wait a minute, like my mom was an entrepreneur. I just didn't think of it that way when you're a kid.
Yeah, so more of an influencer than a teacher.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I want to talk about that because I'm fascinated by this idea of being a facilitator. It really is a more powerful way to influence people and help them grow if you can do it. But you have so much knowledge. You've done so many things. And I've seen from the webinars I've seen, you're bursting with ideas. How do you manage to be a facilitator when inside you're screaming, I know this, I can tell you this?
Well, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I just tell it to them like, look, don't do it like that. Do it this way. Trust me. I've tried it that way. It doesn't work. I'm not afraid to do that. But I'm definitely not afraid to let other people who have expertise in areas that I don't have come in and help. I think some teachers try to like make it seem like they know everything. And that's impossible. Like I can't possibly, I mean, I am a lifetime learner and I love learning stuff and I love trying to learn things in areas that I know that my people are struggling with. But I certainly can't know everything and I never want to come across like that. So in that way, I'm a facilitator. Also, I'm learning to try to help people learn to self-coach because I don't want them to use me as a crutch. What if they are having a big problem and, we're not having a call for another 6 days because we have calls about once a week in the academy where, people can bring questions, but like, I want them to be able to have a framework to figure out how to solve that them for themselves, at least temporarily. And so I don't want them to just, rely entirely on me.
What's your approach to encouraging someone to self-coach? How do you get them there?
Oh, I'm still working on that. I mean, I've had to kind of learn this because when I first started, I was just like, okay, we're gonna just answer questions. But I've learned over time that it's not as helpful to just answer questions than to teach them how to come up with the answer themselves. So that's definitely a process that I haven't completely introduced into even my own community yet. I've been studying it a lot myself and learning how, you know, the circumstances, the problem, but it's really the thought that you have about it and the feeling that that creates a certain result from it. And if you can change that, the way that you think about that thing, it can change all of what happens later.
Was there a point, I'm thinking back to where there's a number of turning points for you. One, you decided to become a musician, then you became a box office person, then you said, I don't want to do that anymore. All these transitions. It sounds like you have been your own coach frequently. Was there a moment where you felt like maybe that kicked in that you'd like to share?
Mm, I don't know if I was smart enough to be my own coach. I think I was a risk taker um, to a point. I like, for example, when I started the radio station, I didn't want to say, because I knew it was going to cost me some money to start it. What I wanted to do was figure out a way to make it break even before I ever decided to do it, because I didn't want to like resent it. So if I'm like, okay, if I can break even on this thing, then and start out that way, then I can really enjoy building it. But if I know I'm constantly in the hole from the beginning and I don't have any way to get out, that's a plan, then I'm going to be frustrated. So, for example, the way that I quit my job, I didn't just go, that's it, I've had it, I'm quitting my job, there's too much stress, and I have a baby, and no. I The reason that I ended up quitting is because I figured out how much our house had gained in value, and that we would be able to sell it and have this nest egg, and know that, every month I could put a little bit of that toward what I used to have as salary. And, even if I could only make this much as a musician, I would have this other amount that I could pull in if I needed to. So I think I'm a risk taker, but I'm also a planner, and those have to work together, because I'm not the kind of person that just is just going to jump off a cliff. I have to know that there's that ledge below.
Uh-huh. Well, you have good self-talk. I'm curious, if you don't mind me challenging you just a little bit,
Sure.
why do you not consider yourself a self-coach? Because the kind of things you're talking about, a coach, this would be great coming from a coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more, I do. I haven't injected it as much into my own community as I want to, and I will. I
Mhm.
work in another program as a coach, and I use a lot of this in that program. We're helping people build courses and stuff, and so I think it starts out, people need to be open to that kind of thinking,
Mhm.
and sometimes people are just very black and white. So you have to get them from the, look, things that you think are facts, they're just actually this belief that you've created in your mind from thinking the same thing over and over again. And it may not be a fact. Let's explore this. But I used to be totally black and white, so I get it.
Oh, can you talk about maybe the moment where you think you went from black and white to getting it?
I don't know that there was a moment. There's just been a lot of education for me over the last 5 years, and just constantly listening to podcasts and listening to other people's perspectives. I think that has helped a lot, because if we are only in our own bubble, we see what the way we see the world is, to us, a fact.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start like opening up your perspectives to the way other people see things, you're like, oh, it can't be a fact, because this person sees it this totally different way, and they're just as sure that it's that way as I'm sure that it's my way.
Do you think, can we move into the men and women thing here? Do you think that women are more likely to have that nuanced view and that the men are going to be more black and white? Or is that not a nuanced view enough coming from a man?
No, I think everybody needs to make that journey. I don't think I think women sometimes have more intuition and are a little more emotionally led, but truthfully, like, emotionally led is just as bad as black and white, because then you're letting your thoughts and feelings run everything without stopping to analyze where those are coming from. So women can go way too far on the other way, and men can go way too far on the black and white way. I was always very analytical and rational, so I always felt like I was a little bit more like a man in that way. And I hate these kind of questions, because I don't want to put people in boxes. I don't want people to hear me say that I think men are always this way and women are always this way. It's not true at all.
Hmm.
But I think that we have certain gifts and strengths, and so I think we all have to take that journey. I think maybe women are coming more from the emotional side on average, and
Hmm.
men are coming over more from the black and white side. But as I said, I am not a highly emotional person. I'm more black and white. So, I see it from the average perspective of men.
Okay, so it sounds like you sit right in the middle and you see that as a valuable place to be. Why have you chosen to help more women than men?
Number one, I just love hanging out with women. I love that vibe. Um, I also think there haven't been enough platforms to promote women. That's why I created what I did back in 2007, which seems like forever ago. I think a lot of things have moved forward since then. But some things are still the same. I mean, there's certain like ingrained things that take a long time to change. But I just, I wanted to give women a leg up, that I felt like, and a safe place to talk about some stuff that, you know, we have been marginalized in some ways in this industry. And so I wanted a place where people could talk about that, not in a negative way. Like, I don't want to be like a, you know, a bunch of like cats, you know, just like complaining, you know. That's not, was not the intent. The intent is to feel supported
Hmm.
and understood.
And when I was, I watched one of your webinars just a couple weeks ago, and it was really astounding to watch as you talked about yourself and your life, to just watch the comments from the women. Yes, Bree, me too, Bree. Yes, yes, that's right. I'm so with you. It was really amazing to see that. And it was all women who were doing that. I think I may have been the only man on that webinar at that point, but it was still, it was great. I mean, I had things that I felt in common with you too, but I didn't type it in. I didn't want to mess with the community.
I know, I all the time, I probably have about 20-25% of my list are men, like on my email list, and I'm always getting emails like, I hope it's okay that I'm on your list, or, you know, I really resonate with you even though I'm a man. I'm like, that's great, that's totally fine. And I'm no longer just focusing on women, but I always want to be an advocate for women.
How do you make that balance? I think some people feel that if you try to do both, just because of the way the society's set up, where the gravity tends to go towards men. I mean, as a man, I can just be myself and I can cause problems for women without even trying. Just walk into a room and everything sort of goes my way in a certain, way. And I might not even be aware of it. So how do you strike the balance between making space for women and yet not completely excluding men, if that's possible?
It's a hard, I'm not gonna lie, like it's a hard line to walk. And sometimes men get mad, you know, like, how can you exclude us? And what? So I'm never trying to exclude them. I'm trying to create an elevated place for women. And it's hard because, you know, when you go super niche like this, it does turn some people off, but it also really turns people on that are the right people for you. So I've loved that. Only recently have I added things like the Profitable Musician Summit and my new course, Rock Your Next Release, that are not gender specific. They are just, I want to help every musician that I see with this problem. So that's been, you know, that's been a little bit of a, not a pivot, but, you know, a little bit of a, like an addition to what I'm doing. But I still absolutely am the advocate and promoter of women in every way I can.
Well, can you give me some advice? I have women I teach, and I teach girls too, a lot of girls. I teach piano specifically, and I teach songwriting too. And I've educated myself. I'm not completely monolithic and, ignorant about what women are thinking, but I'm sure that I'm assuming some things as a man. And I'd like to know, what maybe am I assuming as a man that perhaps isn't true when I'm teaching these women and girls?
Well, I don't know what you're assuming. I find that, and again, this is on average. This is not everyone, because there are some women that do not suffer from this, but there are a lot of women that suffer from lack of confidence, feeling uncomfortable about the way they look, comparing themselves to others in the industry, because most of who the industry puts out there is gorgeous and young. You know, so that's probably going on in the back of their mind. Hopefully not when they're really young, because hopefully they're just focusing on their craft. But it's hard in the world of social media. That's what you see, you know. So that is my experience, that especially I serve a lot of people that are, you know, more mature. Like, I'm 40, I just turned 48. So I serve a lot of people that are 40 and over, and even into their 70s, like thriving. It's amazing. And they inspire me every day. But as you get older, like, it's definitely hard to deal with that. You're always comparing yourself to other people, even if it's subconscious. And I think that is much more common with women.
Comparing.
Mm-hmm.
And well, what should perhaps male music teachers do if they're aware that's going on?
I mean, I want to say, like, I think the best thing you can do is help them have a female mentor. Like, there's only so much you can
Mm,
do as a man.
that's a great suggestion.
Because, like, you're a man, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
you can't quite understand where they're coming from. You can be sympathetic and understanding, and you can try to point them to some resources that will help them. But I wouldn't want to counsel you to think that you can help them the way a woman can. Sometimes you just need to be with someone that understands your perspective. And that's all, that's all there is.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that's really the question I was asking. That's a great answer. Thank you.
good, good. Because I mean, just like, yeah, a 20-year-old cannot counsel a 50-year-old on what they're facing in the music industry. Like, they just won't get it. They haven't had that kind of experience. They don't have the same difficulties. But a 50-year-old can counsel a 20-year-old because they've been in that position and they remember what it's like, and they also can see the big picture beyond that. So that's why I think mentoring, and that's really what the academy is. When I say like a group coaching, and that I'm a facilitator, like, there is a lot of mentoring that goes on in there, because we have people of all ages, like I said, from 16 to 75.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I've asked all the questions I have, but I do want to invite you, if you have anything you'd like to discuss or share, or any questions you wish I'd ask, just to open that up for you.
Oh gosh. I don't think I mean, you asked a lot of really great questions. So I don't have anything specific other than, when I say, like, encourage them to have a mentor, like, a mentor is really important. Also, I think community is important. Being with a community of other like-minded musicians. And that doesn't have to be all females. I happen to have all female communities. I have the academy, which is a paid community. And then I have my female indie musician community on Facebook, which is a group of almost 4,000 women. That is a free group. And that's a place that women can go to get support and ask questions, and just support each other, and just be around people that are facing the same stuff. Because what I experience with musicians a lot of times, is that they don't have a lot of support. They have the support of their teachers like you, and people like me, but they don't have support of family or friends that, like, understand what they're going through, because generally those aren't musicians. And it's a completely different, like, our family and friends don't understand, number one, like, what drives us to do what we do. They think, like, this is a fool's errand. Like, why are you so focused on this? And they don't understand that we have this in our bones and we can't just give it up.
Yeah.
So we want to figure out how to make it work. And being around other musicians, they understand that. They won't question your motives. They'll be like, okay, how can we do this?
Well, if somebody wants you to be their mentor, how can they do that? Could you give us some information?
Absolutely. So I recommend that you go check out my free class that Adam went to. It is called the it's the Musician's Profit Path Method, that I take you through, of how to basically go from being totally unknown to building a fan base of over 1,000 true fans, which is what I think that's all we need to have a real business as a musician and be able to be bringing in steady income. So you can find that at musiciansprofitpath.com. That's the best way to kind of go into my method and my teaching. And then after that, if you want to become a part of my community, you'll get an opportunity to do that.
Great. Thank you so much, Bree. We appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
You are welcome. This has been your questions have been awesome, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what we're striving for.